Hello, hello, hello. I am the Linux Mench. The last time I did a video on FreeBsd was back in February. And of course, right now it's the end of September, so I thought it's time to take another look at it. So I'm going to do a fresh install, a base install, and then I'm going to do a post installation and install all my favorite apps. And I've updated and changed my scripts for FreeBsd, the scripts that are in my GitLab repository. So let's get to it. This is the FreeBsd website. And when you land on here, you just click download FreeBsd. And you're going to scan down. And they released a new ISO on June the 4th of this year. I'm going to click on AMD 64. And I'm going to go down to, I'm going to download a 4.5 gigabyte ISO. Now there's two here that are 4.5 gigabytes. This first one, which is boot only ISO, I didn't use that one. I used the one in halfway down, 4.5 gigabytes, and it's a DVD 1 ISO. So I downloaded it. I'm not going to download it now because I already did it. It's a pretty big ISO, and I think their mirrors or their servers are slow because it took about 10 minutes to download, which is a long time for an ISO. So now I'm going to close my web browser, and I already have a virtual machine fired up, and I'm going to do a base install and then a post install all in one video. So when you boot onto the ISO, this is what you get. And I'm not going to use my mouse. You can't use your mouse in here. Once the installation is finished, the mouse will be active, but right now it's all keyboard driven. And you're going to use your arrows to go back and forth. Right? So it lands on install, but just to show you your arrows, right? So I'm going to go through and install. I'm going to hit enter. And the keyboard is good because it's automatically on an American keyboard. I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to give the machine a host name. I'm just going to call it FreeBsd. And I'm going to hit enter. You can call it whatever you want. Then I'm going to use my arrows to go down. And I'm going to highlight ports. And I'm going to use my space bar to put an asterisk beside ports. Just like that. Then I'm going to hit enter to OK it. And I'm going to use my arrows to go down. And I'm going to use the second one. Auto UFS, guided UFS disk setup. I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to hit enter for entire disk. And I'm going to hit enter for MBR, DOS partitions. And everything looks good. So I'm going to hit enter to finish. And I'm going to hit enter to commit. And now it's just going to go through this process. This little process here takes about a minute, maybe 2 minutes at the most. And when this process is finished, it's going to take you to a TTY screen, okay? And it's going to ask you for your root password. And here we are. We're at the TTY screen. I guess it's called a TTY screen. I'm not sure if that's the correct word for it. Anyways, it's asking us for a root password. So I'm going to type in my root password. I'm going to retype it. Now it takes you to this screen, and I'm just going to hit OK. I'm going to hit yes. Just hitting my enter key, right? I'm going to hit it again. I'm going to hit it again. There's a lot of enter here. And I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to use my keys to go down to number 2, America, North and South. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to use my keys to go down to Canada. I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to go to number 6, Eastern Ontario and Quebec. I'm going to hit enter. Does the time zone look good? Yes, I'm in Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to hit yes or enter, right? And the date is good and it's already on skip, so I'm just going to hit enter. And the time is correct and it's automatically on skip because I don't need to change it, right? If I needed to change it, I'd use my arrow keys to go here to set time. But the time is good, so I'm going to leave it on skip. Now I'm going to go use my arrow to go down. I'm going to click this dump dev. I'm just going to use my space bar to take the X away. And I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to just skip this one. Would you like to add users to the installed system? Yes. So my name is Mench. And of course, you don't have to put your full name in here. So I'm just going to put Mench again. And I'm going to leave this empty, hit enter. I'm going to leave this empty, hit enter. And here I'm just going to type in, wheel. I'm going to make Mench part of the wheel group, which I don't normally do in my Arch videos. I'm going to hit enter. 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 So if you notice, I'm hitting all these enters. So anything that's in that square bracket is the default one. So if you hit enter, if you don't type anything in and you hit enter, it's going to automatically do the default. So maybe I should just quickly explain what I'm doing. For new users, use password-based authentication was yes. The default was yes, so I just hit enter. Use an empty password, the default was no, and I just hit enter. Use a random password, the default is no because it's in the square brackets, so I'm just going to hit enter. Now it's asking me to enter a password, so I'm going to enter a password for Mench. I'm going to re-enter it. Lock out the account after creation? No, the default is no, so I'm just going to hit enter. And does everything look good? The default is yes, so I don't have to type in yes, I'm just going to hit enter. Add another user? The default is no, and I don't want to add another user, so I'm just going to hit enter. And of course, if you want to add another user, you'd have to type in yes, because the default is no for this one. I'm going to hit enter, and now we're back to this screen. So now we have the choice to apply the configuration or to exit the installer. And I'm just going to exit. And of course, we could use our arrows to go down if we need to fix something. We think we didn't type something in right, or we didn't click on the right thing. You can go down and use it, but the default is exit, and I'm going to just hit enter. Now the installation is now finished. Before exiting the installer, would you like to open a shell in the new system to make any final manual modifications? The default is no. And I'm going to leave it on no. Now, if you want to go in, you can use your arrows to go over to yes and click enter. But I'm just going to say no. Now the default is reboot. So I'm just going to leave it on there, and I'm going to hit enter. And it's rebooting into the base install. And I'm just going to let it run through. And because this is a virtual machine, it's looking like this. So I'm going to make this full screen. And I'm going to hit enter. It gives you a 10-second countdown. We don't need to sit through 10-second countdown. And the base install is almost finished. Then I'm going to update the system. Then I'm going to install my GitLab repository. I'm going to install some of my favorite apps, window managers. And then I'm going to finish the video. I think it's going to be a long video. So we're at the login screen. I'm going to type in my username, Mench, my password, Mench's password, and now I'm going to clear the screen. First thing I'm going to do is switch into root. So I'm going to type in SU, leave a space, and put a dash. Put root's password in and clear the screen. I'm going to type in FreeBsd, update, leave a space, and type in fetch. Hit enter, and it's going to take a minute or two to go through this. Okay, so it finished that part. And like I said, it took a minute, maybe 2 minutes. I didn't really time it. And to get out of there, you're going to hit the Q, the letter Q. That takes you out of there. And now I'm going to clear the screen. Now I'm going to type in FreeBsd dash update install. And I'm going to hit enter. And now it's installing the updates. And that part's done. Now what I'm going to do is clear the screen. And I'm going to do name dash R. So you can see we're on 14.1 release. Now I'm going to reboot. Let's do, let's just do it like this. Reboot. Let's hit enter because we don't need to sit through a 10-second countdown. And we're going to type in Mench, Mench's password, and clear the screen. Now again, I'm going to go back into root. So I'm going to do su, leave a space, and put a dash in there. Put root's password in. And again, I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to type in this pkg package install sudo. And now in most distributions, like when you're running Arch Linux or Debian or many other ones, the default is always capital Y. So you don't have to type anything in. You just hit enter and it puts it in. This is the other way around. So the default is capital N, which is no. So if I hit enter, watch what happens. See, it doesn't put it in. And when I'm working in FreeBsd, I always hit enter by accident because my main distribution is Arch. I live in Arch. So I'm always used to just hitting enter and it does the installation. Here you have to type in a small y. So let's do that again. Package install sudo, and I'm going to hit the y. Then enter. So now we're installing sudo because it doesn't come pre-installed. You have to put it in yourself. And this reminds me a lot of Arch Linux, even though it's totally different, really. Okay. Oh, do you want to install it? So I have to hit the small y again and hit enter. There, it's installed. So let's clear the screen and let's do sudo. Type in sudo like that. And let's go down. So in my Arch videos, I always just copy this line. Root all. I copy it and I change the word root to Mench. And you can do that here too, it will work. Or we made Mench part of the wheel group. So we can just uncomment this number sign here, or this hashtag if you want to call it that. You can do it either way, and it works either way in FreeBsd because I tried it both ways. And it also works both ways in Arch Linux and Debian as well. So during the installation, we made Mench part of the wheel group. So let's just do that. Uncomment all members of group wheel to execute any command. So let's just delete that. Let's just save it. And let's clear the screen. Now I'm going to type in exit to get back to Mench. And I'm going to clear the screen. So now we're back in Mench. I'm going to type in mkdir .config. I'm going to make a configuration folder and let's see if it's there. Oops. Let's clear the screen. Let's ls-a. And is it there? There it is, .config. Okay, let's clear the screen. Now I'm going to install Git because Git doesn't come installed by default. So I'm going to do sudo pkg install Git. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to put my password in, Mench's password that is. And it's installing all these files. And again, I have to hit the small y and then hit enter. Whereas in Arch Linux, you don't. You just hit enter because yes is the default. And now I'm going to clear the screen. So now we've installed Git. I'm going to install my GitLab repository with all my configuration files. I'm going to type in git clone https : / well, I should make a proper colon there, right? / gitlab.com / artibus1 / mench.git. And if this is too hard for you to remember, this command is in the show notes of all my videos. And I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm cloning my GitLab repository. I'm going to clear the screen. And I'm going to cd into Mench. I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to cd into, well, let's ls it. So there we have it there. I have all these folders. I have Linux Mint Ubuntu. I have an Arch Linux folder. I have a Debian folder, a FreeBsd folder, and a Void folder. So the FreeBsd folder is the second from the bottom. I'm going to cd into it. Cd FreeBsd. And I'm going to clear the screen, and I'm going to JLL it. And my face is probably in the way. I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to ls it. I'm going to run my auto script. So Vim is not installed yet. And also another thing, FreeBsD by default, it doesn't come with Vim or Nano. It only comes with Vi. Now, after the fact, you can install Vim and Nano. I think you can install Nano. I'm not sure. But I know you can install Vim. And so right now only Vi is installed as a text editor. So I'm going to Vi into Auto app. And these are all the things I'm going to download. This is a script. It's going to install the awesome window manager, the Qtile window manager, the i3 window manager, the Cinnamon desktop, and many of the apps that I like to use. It's going to install Fast Fetch, Firefox, the full LibreOffice suite, Librewolf. And if you don't know what Librewolf is, it's a hardened fork of Firefox. It's a web browser. Htop, can install Lightdm, Nitrogen for wallpaper, Rhythmbox for music, Remina for desktop remoting into other systems, Vim, and so forth. Now, if you notice, this list is a lot smaller than the one in my Arch Linux system. And, well, it just is. Okay. So anyways, this is it. You should probably look at it before you run it. And we're going to quit out of there. And I'm going to clear the screen and I'm going to run it. So I'm going to do /auto. And I spelled it wrong. Let's do that. There we go. And let's hit enter. Asking for my password. So I'm going to put my password in. And I'm going to hit the small Y for yes. And it's installing all these apps. And this is going to take about 15 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video and come back. So don't go away. So that took close to 20 minutes. So if you're going to do this, you probably want to go and get something to eat or get a coffee or something. So I'm going to clear the screen. And my mouse is not on the right monitor. I'm going to clear the screen. And now I'm going to ls it again. And see on the right, well, in the middle of the screen, run configs. At the bottom there, run configs. I'm going to go in there and take a look at it. So I'm going to Vi run configs. Okay, so this is my run config file. It's a little different than the one that's in my Arch Linux folder. And what this is going to do, it's going to copy some of the configuration files into my home folder. It's going to copy 3 wallpapers into my home folder. It's going to copy my awesome Qtile and i3 configuration files into my home folder. And it's going to set up my firewall. So this is what it is. You probably should look at it if you're going to run it. Let's just get out of there. And I'm going to clear the screen and I'm going to run it. So I'm going to do /run. And it's asking for my password. I'm going to put my password in. And this one's going to be fast. It's finished. Okay, I'm going to clear the screen. Now what I want to do is see if my Zesh configuration file is working. Let's type in Zesh. Ah, it's working. That's better. Now I'm going to copy my Vim configuration file over. So what I'm going to do is cd out of here. I'm going to cd into usr / now it's not user as in user, it's usr / local / share / vim / then I'm going to ls it. and there's a folder called Vim91. Now this folder changes every time Vim gets an update. It's going to be Vim 92 or Vim 93, whatever. That changes. So anyways, I'm going to cd into Vim 91, and I'm going to ls it. And let's just clear the screen. Let's ls it again. What I'm going to do is the one on the far right at the very bottom, it's called vimrc underscore example. I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to do sudo copy vimrc to my home folder // period vim rc. And I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to cd out of there and sudo vim period vim rc. Should type it right. And I'm just going to go down and find a space. Let's go here. And I'm just going to make some space. I'm going to type in set numbers, set nu, fill, chars, plus equals eob, colon, backward slash. I'm going to leave 2 spaces. And I'm going to save the file. So the first line I typed in is for numbers, to put numbers automatically in my Vim files. And the second line is going to get rid of tilde. So normally when you open up a Vim file, all the blank spaces are going to have a tilde, that squiggly line, right down to the bottom of the screen. That's going to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm going to quit this. And now I'm going to see if it works. So let's do... let's make a fake file here. Let's do our test file. Let's do vim test text. And there it is. It's working. I have numbers, and all those squiggly lines, they're called tilde. All the tildes are gone. So now I'm going to close that file and clear the screen. Now I'm going to make Zesh my default shell for Mench. I'm not going to touch it in root, but for Mench, I'm going to make it the default shell. So I'm going to do sudo chsh -s dash mench, and that's changed. User information updated, so I know it worked. And now I'm going to clear the screen. Now that I have Zesh installed and Vim installed and my configuration files for them, I'm going to go in and change this. I'm going to do sudo vim etc fstab. And they're going to go to the bottom. Now, the reason why my line numbers are not showing up in this file, and the reason why it has all the tildes going down to the bottom, is because this is a root file. And I didn't change Vim or my Zesh for root. I just changed it for Mench. So that's why the tildes are showing up and there's no line numbers. And because I'm not so familiar with FreeBsd, I'm a little reluctant to change Vim and Zesh for root. But I do in my Arch system. I'm going to type in proc. I'm going to tab it to line up with none. I'm going to put a / in and type proc. I'm going to tap it to go underneath swap. I'm going to type in procfs. I'm going to type in rw. I'm going to tab it, and I'm going to go 0, and I'm going to tab it again and go 0. I'm going to hit enter, and now I'm going to save the file. And it's saved, and I'm going to clear the screen. Now I'm going to do sudo vim etc rc. If you didn't run my scripts and you didn't manually install Vim, then you're going to have to use vi. Okay? So I'm going to go into this rc.configuration file, and I'm going to go down to the bottom. And again, my line numbers are not showing up here, and the tildes are there. Like I said before, I didn't put my Vim configuration file or my Zesh configuration file into root, like I normally do in my Arch systems. Anyways, I'm going to type in dbus underscore enable equals caps yes, and hit enter. I'm going to type in I'm going to take my caps off. I'm going to type in Lightdm underscore enable equals, I'm going to put my caps back on, yes. And then I'm going to type in, take my caps off, I'm going to put pf enable equals, or pf underscore enable equals, I put my caps back, caps back on, yes, like that. Now this file here, what it's doing is, every time I reboot my system or I turn my system on, it's going to cause dbus to go on, it's going to cause Lightdm to go on, and it's going to cause the firewall to go on, because that's what this pf is. Pf enable is the firewall. So the firewall will be turned on. Okay, now I'm going to save the file. Oops, I'm going to take my caps off. I save the file and get out of there, and I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to type in sudo reboot. Reboot and see if it brings us to Lightdm and then to our window managers. And there's a 10-second pause, so I'm going to hit enter to bypass that. And what's happening? And we're at Lightdm, the login screen, or the display manager. So if you click on here, you can see I have the Cinnamon desktop, Qtile, the awesome window manager, and the i3 window manager. So first I'm going to go into Qtile, and let's put my password in. And there's Qtile with my configuration file. Now, I'm not going to give you a tour of Qtile or show you how to use it because I have videos on that. So let's get out of there. Let's go into the awesome window manager. Put my password in. And now we're in the awesome window manager with my configuration file. Right, we have menu here, just like it does in my Arch Linux systems. Let's see if Librewolf opens up. And there we are. We're in Librewolf. We have Firefox installed, Rhythmbox, PCman FM, and so forth. So now I'm going to get out of there. Let's just use my mouse. Let's quit. And I guess quickly I should open up the Cinnamon desktop. I wasn't going to, but I will. Now, of course, when you install Cinnamon desktop environment in pure Debian, pure Arch Linux, or FreeBsd, it's really ugly, and you have to configure it. Okay, it looks like something from the 1990s. And of course, the Linux Mint team, they're the ones that develop the Cinnamon desktop and maintain it and update it. And of course, their version is nicer than this, but you can make this look just as nice as it does in Linux Mint. And you don't have to go into a terminal to do it. It's all using the GUI or the graphical environment. It's just a matter of going into the settings and, adding in the weather network icon and changing the colors and theming it and making it look nicer. And in many of my videos, my past videos, in my Arch Linux systems, in my Debian systems, I've showed you how to make the Cinnamon desktop look nicer and more modern. And I even have some videos that focus only on the Cinnamon desktop. So I'm not going to do that here. I don't want this video to be too long. It's probably going to be over an hour, or probably going to end up recording an hour and a half. I'm going to have to chop it down. Hopefully I can chop it down to being less than an hour. So I just wanted to open up this to show you that it's working. But it's easy enough to do. The Cinnamon desktop is really easy to theme and make it look a lot nicer and more modern. Having said that, let's get out of here. Let's log out. And last but not least, we are going to go into the i3 window manager. And I'm going to type my password in. And now we're in the i3 window manager, which is the window manager I've been living in on my main production machine for at least a month, maybe even 2 months. So what I'm going to do is call up the menu, which is mod key P, and I'm going to type in LX appearance. And ooh, sorry about blinding your eyes there. I'm going to change it to Materia Dark. Icon theme is going to be Papyrus Dark. And I'm going to go down here and apply it. And now I'm going to close it. And I'm also going to go to mod key P to bring up D menu again. And of course, D menu by default, it's usually mod key D. But in my i3 configuration file, I changed it to mod key P because mod key P in Awesome Window Manager brings up the top menu or the top run launcher. And I changed Qtile to be the same way. Mod key P brings up the run launcher. So let's type in power. And let's go to XFCE4 Power Manager Settings and hit that. And I'm just going to go to display and I'm going to turn this off. Okay. So now the settings that we just changed for our dark theme, LX appearance, and the settings that we changed in the Power Manager settings, they're going to stick and hold true for logging into Qtile Window Manager and the Awesome Window Manager. But if you're going to go into the Cinnamon desktop, you're going to have to set the power settings within the Cinnamon desktop yourself separately, and you're going to have to set the theming separately in the Cinnamon desktop. Now I'm going to set the wallpaper. So I'm going to do mod key P. I'm going to type in nitrogen. I'm going to go to nitrogen. So I'm going to use my mouse to go to preferences. And I'm going to take off this recursive. You really want to take off this recursive, because if you leave it on, it's going to search your whole system for wallpapers. So you don't want to do that. So we're going to take it off. Let's unclick it. There we go. Now we're going to click on this add button. And we're going to go to the home folder. Now you're not going into my Mench directory or my Mench folder that you downloaded from my GitLab repository. You want to go into your home folder. So if your username is John, then you want to look here. You want to look here for John, and you want to go into it. If your username is Jane, then you want to look for Jane in here, right? So you're not going into the Mench folder, my Mench folder that you downloaded. You're going into your home folder. Sorry for repeating myself. We're going to click it on here. Then we're going to click on select. And then we're going to click on OK. Now I'm going to click on it. I gave you 3 wallpapers, so we're going to click on this one. I like it. I hit apply. And now I'm going to close the screen. And there we are. We have wallpaper. Now, another thing I want to do here is click on this. Oops. Right click it. Go into preferences. Status icon. I'm going to change this from default to white GNOME. And I'm going to click on here, show slider. So let's click it on. Let's close it. Now I'm going to log out of here. Hit yes, let's log back in. And let's see if the slider is working. And it is. Okay, and everything's good. So if I do mod key F, it's going to open up Firefox. I don't have a fast key for or key binding for Librewolf, so it's going to be mod key P. Going to type in Librewolf. And there's Librewolf, the hardened fork of Firefox. And you see Librewolf already comes with the ad blocker installed and turned on right here. Okay, I'm going to close that. And mod key P, we have Rhythm Box for music. We have mod key R, opens up Ramina for remote desktop. Control mod key O opens up LibreOffice because I gave you the full LibreOffice suite. Let's open up Document Writer. There's our Document Writer. Let's close that. Let's open up our spreadsheet, Calc, which is the spreadsheet, and there's the spreadsheet. That's kind of bright, eh? Let's close that. Let's close that. Control Mod Key P is PCMan FM, our file manager. Let's close that. And of course, we can get out of there. We can exit. And let's go into the awesome window manager just for a bit. Let's put my password in. And of course, I gave you the menu. It's the same thing that's in my Arch Linux. Let's open up Librewolf. Let's close it. If you're not used to window managers, probably Awesome is better to use. Or the Cinnamon desktop. If you don't want to use a full desktop environment, you probably want you want to go to window managers and you never used them before. I think Awesome is the easiest one for you to use. Let's go to Calculator. Now we have GNOME Calculator. There's PCMan FM. What I'm going to do is hit Enter, and I'm going to do Sudo Reboot. Now you got to do Sudo when rebooting in FreeBsd, whereas in Arch Linux you don't. And when I finish the app tour, there's a few more things I want to show you before I close off the video. I want to do an Htop on a fresh boot. And I'm going to go back into i3 because I really like i3. I've been using it a lot. I've been living in it, like I said, for a month or two. And it takes me to the login screen or the display manager. And let's go to i3. Let's open up a terminal, which is mod key enter. And let's do an Htop. So there, on a fresh boot, we're running at 437 megabytes of RAM. In this virtual machine, I gave it 4 processors, 4 gigs of RAM, and 2.5 gigs of swap. Now, I didn't give it, so you know, if you've been following my channel, you know that I don't use swap. I never install swap in my Arch installs. And I didn't here either. It just automatically gave it 2.5 gig of swap, which is not bad. You can't complain. I wouldn't say 2.5 gig of swap is a waste. I would not say that. It's just that one thing I don't like about Linux Mint Debian. Now, Linux Mint Debian, I do love it. I think it's a great distribution. I like it better than Linux Mint Ubuntu. But Linux Mint Debian matches your swap with your RAM. So if you have, let's say you have 16 gigs of RAM, it's going to give you 16 gigs of swap. And that is totally unnecessary. It's a total waste of space. But 2.5 gigs of swap, I don't think that's bad at all. Oh, and interestingly enough, because you might say, well, Linux Mint Debian is based on Debian and it's Debian's fault. When I install pure Debian in a virtual machine, in all my virtual machines, I always give them 4 gigs of RAM. Well, except for my Windows 10 virtual machine. In my Windows 10 virtual machine, I gave it 8 gigs of RAM. But all my Linux distributions, when I make virtual machines, I always give them 4 gigs of RAM. And in my Debian virtual machine, I gave it 4 gigs of RAM, and the installer only gave it 1 gig of swap to my 4 gigs of RAM. So it didn't duplicate it, or didn't match it. But for some reason, Linux Mint Debian matches swap with RAM, and I think that's too much. And it's not because of Debian, because Debian doesn't do that. Anyways, that's too much. I got on way too long with this. So let's close it. You can see on a fresh reboot, we're running at 435 megabytes of RAM out of 4 gigs of RAM. Now, the firewall is on if you ran my scripts. And I just want to show you it. So we're going to do sudo vim etc pf.conf. So it's not config like it would be in Arch. Well, Arch doesn't have pf firewall, but tildes are there. And there's no numbers there because, like I said, I didn't copy my vimrc or my zesh configuration files into root. And this is a root file. I always use uncomplicated firewall, UFW. That doesn't come in with FreeBsd. But FreeBsd does come with 3 firewalls, and I'm using PF firewall. Very simple configuration. It's blocking all from coming in, but it's allowing SSH to come in, and it's allowing all to go out, and it's remembering the state. So this word here, keep state, it's going to remember the state. So this is my configuration file. It's very basic and very simple. Let's get out of there, and let's clear the screen. Now, if you make a change to your firewall configuration file, the one I just showed you, after you make the change, you're going to have to do this. Sudo pf ctl -nf etc pf.conf. And when you do this, if there's an error in your firewall, it's going to show you. If there's no error in your firewall, it'll be blank. Let's see it. Now there's no errors in my firewall. So see, it didn't return anything. But if there's an error in the firewall, it's going to return something. And then you have to run the second command. So when you make a change in your firewall, you have to run this second command. This first command is optional, but you probably should run it just to make sure there's no errors in your firewall configuration. But so like I said, this first command is optional, but the second command you have to do. And that's going to be this. It's going to be the same thing, but without the N. So I'm going to take the N off. Okay. And you got to run that. And that's it. And you always have to run that command if you make a change in your firewall configuration file. Now, if for some reason you want to turn your firewall off temporarily, you could do this. Sudo service pf stop. Okay. Now, if you need to restart it again, then you're going to do sudo service pf start. And it's already set to be turned on when you boot into the system. And the reason why is if you look at, let's go sudo vim etc rc conf. And if you installed my scripts, this threw this in there. So you see on reboot, PF, which is the firewall, it's enabled on reboot, okay? Now I'm going to talk a little bit about SSH. So actually, if we go back into this file, we can see right here. Let's just do that NU. You can see line 4, SSH is enabled. So whenever you boot into your system, SSH is turned on. Okay, let's get out of there. Let's clear the screen. Now, if you want to turn SSH off for the current session, you're going to do sudo service sshd stop. And now SSH is turned off. Now, if you want to turn it back on for the current session, you're going to do sudo service sshd start. And now it's turned on again. And of course, like I said, because it's in your RC config file, when you boot into the system, SSH is automatically going to be turned on. Now I'm going to clear the screen. Now in Arch Linux and Debian, if I need to know my IP address, I'm going to do IP A. But here it doesn't work. But in FreeBsd, you're going to do if config. Now if I hit that, it's going to show you my IP address, and I don't want to do that. I don't want you to see my IP address, but that's how you get it, okay? Now another thing I just want to talk about before I go, and that's this. FreeBsd has amazing documentation, and it's right up there with Arch Linux, Gentoo, and Void Linux. And maybe it's even better than them. It has amazing documentation. So when you're on the main page, you just want to go to documentation. Go down this menu and go to handbook. If you go to handbook, it has chapters and detailed information on everything you might want to know about it. And you shouldn't have to do too much Googling or YouTube videos if you want to learn how to do something. And it might have the best documentation. It might even be better than Gentoo, Arch Linux, or Void, or at least just as good. And that's it. In this video, I showed you how to install FreeBsd with the Cinnamon desktop, the awesome window manager, the Qtile window manager, and the i3 window manager with my configuration files from my GitLab repository. And I installed many apps that you would need. Full LibreOffice suite, Firefox, Librewolf web browser, Rhythmbox for music, Thunderbird for email, and many other apps. And I updated my FreeBsd files that are in my GitLab repository. I updated them. So if you downloaded my GitLab repository a long time ago, you probably want to go into the Mench folder and do a git pull, because I updated all the files in my FreeBsd folder during the past few days. So I want to give FreeBsd 2 thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I am the Linux Mench.